Chapter 99. Breaking Point. Date 3/30/480, second quarter. Iron Confederacy, safe hollow. The battering rams hit the gates like thunder. Boom, boom, boom. Each impact sent shockwaves through the ground. The makeshift wooden barriers splintered with each strike, the reinforced hinges groaning in protest.
"Brace the gates."
Roderick screamed, but his voice was drowned by the cacophony of war. The third wave wasn't just larger, it was smarter. Goblins with tower shields formed a protective corridor, allowing the ram crews to work unimpeded. Archers on the walls found their shots deflected or absorbed by the overlapping shields. Demir stood at the center gate, Wolf's vow planted in the ground armor streaked with blood and mud. Around him, 30 defenders formed a desperate last line. If the gates fell, the town fell.
"Hold!"
He roared, though his voice cracked with exhaustion. The gates shuddered again. Cracks spider-webbed across the wood. Thalia appeared at the wall's edge, her face, gaunt eyes, bloodshot.
"I've got one big spell left, maybe 2 small ones."
"Save it. We'll need it when they break through."
"Yen,"
she repeated hollowly.
"When?"
He confirmed. The battering ram struck again. This time the right gate buckled inward, hanging by a single twisted hinge. Goblins howled in triumph.
"Break, break. Humans die."
"Archers! Focus fire on the ram crew!"
Elandra commanded from above. Arrows rained down, but the shield wall held. For every goblin that fell, another stepped forward to take its place. On the eastern wall, another breach opened. Goblins poured through like ants from a kicked hill, overwhelming the skeletal defense. Marco stood there, hands trembling, tears streaming down his face.
I can't do this."
A goblin lunged at him, spear raised. Sin appeared from nowhere, blade flashing. The goblin's head hit the ground before its body did.
"Get behind me, old man."
But Sin was moving too slow. Blood loss from a dozen cuts had sapped his speed. Another goblin swung a club, catching him across the ribs. He went down hard.
"Yeses."
Timmy's scream cut through the chaos. The younger twin charged forward, sword raised despite the blood soaking through his bandages. He killed the goblin standing over his brother, then hauled Sin to his feet.
"Stay down, you idiot. You can barely stand."
"Neither can you."
Timmy shot back, smile, weak but defiant. They stood back to back, 2 brothers against an ocean of enemies. The gates finally gave way. Crack. Wood exploded inward in a shower of splinters. The battering ram crashed through scattering defenders. Goblins surged into the breach, screaming their victory.
"Kill, kill. Take slaves."
Demir met them head-on. Wolf's vow blazed with the last vestiges of its enchantment, lightning arcing with every swing. He became a whirlwind of steel and fury, cutting, blocking, killing. His armor took hits that would have shattered bone, but the dents accumulated. A strap on his shoulder guard snapped. A buckle at his waist gave way. He didn't stop. To his left, Kilgore fought with fading precision. The assassin's movements were still deadly, but slower now. A goblin blade caught his thigh and he stumbled. He recovered, killed his attacker, but the wound bled freely. To his right, Thalia unleashed her final meteor shard. The spell struck the center of the goblin formation, incinerating dozens. But the mana cost staggered her. She collapsed against the tower wall, gasping.
"I'm done. Nothing left."
Ardrum dragged her behind cover.
"Then rest. We'll handle it."
But even as he said it, a goblin arrow found his shoulder. He cried out, spell fizzling on his lips. The eastern breach widened. Goblins flooded the town square, setting fire to buildings, dragging civilians from hiding. Screams filled the air, not of warriors, but of families. Asina tore through the square like a vengeful spirit, saving who she could. But even the mighty wolf was bleeding from countless wounds. Her movements grew sluggish, her breath labored.
"Fall back to the town hall. Form up."
Demir fought his way toward the center, trying to rally the defenders. But nobody could hear him over the chaos. A goblin elite stepped through the ruined gates, massive, scarred, wielding a crude great axe. It locked eyes with Demir and grinned, yellowed teeth gleaming.
"Strong humans. I break you.
The goblin elite charged. Demir barely raised his sword in time. The great axe crashed down with bone-shattering force. His blade held, but the impact drove him to one knee. His arm screamed in protest. The elite swung again. Demir rolled aside the axe, gouging a crater in the ground where he'd stood. He countered with a lightning-charged slash that caught the goblin's side, scoring a deep cut. The elite roared and backhanded Demir across the face. His helm absorbed most of the blow, but stars exploded across his vision. He tasted blood. Before the elite could finish him, Asina crashed into its flank, jaws clamping around its shoulder. The goblin screamed, thrashing, trying to dislodge the wolf. Demir staggered to his feet and drove Wolf's vow through the elite's throat. The massive goblin gurgled blood frothing from its mouth and collapsed. But the victory was hollow. Around them, Safe Hollow was burning. Defenders fell by the dozens. Roderick fought near the town hall, his sword arm hanging limp, still swinging one-handed. Elandra had run out of arrows and was fighting with a dagger. Marvin lay motionless on a rooftop, an arrow in her chest. Marco knelt in the square, surrounded by bodies, sobbing. Sin and Timmy held a narrow alley, still fighting back to back. Both were drenched in blood, their own and others. Timmy's movements were mechanical now, each swing slower than the last.
We can't win this.
Doesn't matter. We fight anyway.
You're an idiot.
Takes one to know one.
A faint smile crossed Sin's face.
Yeah?
The goblins regrouped for another push, but instead of charging, they parted. From the forest emerged something worse, a fourth wave. But this one was different. At its head marched goblin elites, clad in patchwork metal armor, wielding weapons looted from fallen human towns. Behind them, 1,000 more goblins, fresh and eager. Demir's heart sank. Roderick staggered over, face pale.
We're done. We're done? No. Look around. Half our fighters are dead or dying. The walls are gone. We can't. We hold. Until the last breath. We hold.
Roderick stared at him, then slowly nodded.
Until the last breath.
The fourth wave advanced, slowly savoring their victory. Demir stood at the center of the burning town square, armor-battered, sword-bloodied body screaming in agony. Asina limped to his side, fur matted with blood, one eye swollen shut. Around them the remaining defenders gathered, perhaps 50 still standing, all wounded, all exhausted, all ready to die. Thalia appeared, leaning on Ardrum for support.
For what it's worth, it was an honor.
Dying sucks, but the company's not bad.
Kilgore spat blood. Marco clutched his staff hands, steady for the first time all day.
I'm sorry I failed you all.
You didn't fail, you fought. That's enough.
Sin and Timmy joined the circle, the twins supporting each other. The goblin elites began their final charge. Demir raised Wolf's vow high.
For Safe Hollow.
The defenders roared back. For Safe Hollow. The goblins surged forward, and the slaughter began anew. The goblin elites were faster, stronger, better equipped than their kin. They crashed into the defensive line like a steel wave, scattering the exhausted defenders. Demir met the first elite head, on their blades clashing with a sound like breaking glass. The goblin was skilled, parrying, feinting, counterattacking. Demir's exhausted muscles screamed as he fought, each movement slower than the last. He won barely, driving his blade through the goblin's chest. But 2 more took its place. Around him, the circle of defenders disintegrated. Kilgore went down, overwhelmed by 3 elites. He took 2 with him before a spear found his back. Ardrum fell, protecting Thalia, a goblin axe splitting his skull. Thalia screamed, unleashing her last reserves of magic in a wild explosion that killed a dozen goblins but left her collapsed and defenseless.
Hold, hold, hold.
Roderick fought like a man possessed, one-armed, bleeding from a dozen wounds, refusing to fall. But there was nothing left to hold. The goblins overwhelmed them, surrounding the last knot of defenders in the burning square. Demir found himself pressed against a wall. Asena beside him, both of them bleeding, both of them still fighting. The wolf's movements were sluggish now, her jaws snapping with fading strength.
I'm sorry, girl. I couldn't protect them.
Asina growled, as if rejecting his apology. Across the square, Sin and Timmy still fought back-to-back in the narrow alley. A goblin elite flanked them, spear raised.
Sin, behind you.
Oh, Marco screamed. Sin spun, but too slow. The spear drove toward his exposed back. Timmy threw himself in the way. The spear punched through his chest, emerging bloody from his back.
Gong.
Sin's scream tore the sky. Time seemed to freeze. Timmy looked down at the spear, then up at his brother. Blood bubbled from his lips.
Told you, I'd watch. You're back. You're back.
No. No, no, no.
Sin caught his brother as he fell, pulling him away from the goblin, cradling him against his chest. The goblin raised its spear for another strike, and something in Demir shattered.
No.
He didn't remember crossing the square. One moment he was against the wall, the next he was there, Wolf's Vow cleaving the goblin elite in half. The two pieces fell separately. He stood over the twins' armor-dented body broken, but eyes blazing with something beyond rage. Asina joined him, hackles, raised a final defiant snarl on her bloodied muzzle. Goblin elites surrounded them. 10, 15, 20. Sin held his dying brother, tears streaming down his dark face.
Stay with me, Timmy. Please, stay with me.
But Timmy's eyes were already glazing.
Tell Mom, I was brave.
You were. You were the bravest.
Timmy smiled faintly. And then he was gone. The light left his eyes. His hand fell limp. Sin's scream was primal, inhuman, a sound of pure devastation. And in Demir something broke free. The world turned red. His vision narrowed to a tunnel of blood and fury. The goblin faces before him became nothing but targets, obstacles to destroy. He moved faster than thought, faster than pain. Wolf's Vow became a blur of lightning and steel. Goblins fell in pieces, unable to react, unable to defend. Asina matched his fury, the wolf and the man moving as one entity of violence. They carved through the goblin elites like a scythe through wheat. More came. They killed them. More came. They killed them too. Demir felt nothing. No exhaustion, no pain, no fear, only the need to destroy, to kill, to protect what remained.
Run, run, beast, humans, monster.
The goblins began to back away, fear finally breaking through their bloodlust. But Demir and Asina pursued, driving them back, killing any too slow to flee. The remaining defenders rallied behind them. Thalia, Marco, a handful of guards. They formed a wedge, pushing forward, reclaiming the square foot by bloody foot. But the cost was everything. Bodies littered the ground. Friends, neighbors, family. And in a quiet alley, Sin knelt alone, holding his brother's cooling body, rocking back and forth, broken beyond repair. The goblins retreated to the forest edge, regrouping but not fleeing. They still had numbers. They still had strength. This wasn't over. Demir stood at the center of the ruined square chest, heaving blood dripping from his armor. The frenzy was fading, replaced by a hollow emptiness. They'd bought minutes, maybe an hour, but the end was still coming. Asina collapsed beside him, finally unable to stand. Her breathing was labored, ragged.
I know, I'm tired too.
He looked up at the smoke-choked sky, at the burning buildings, at the faces of the few who remained. And for the first time since the siege began, he allowed himself to believe they were going to lose. The goblin horns sounded again, rallying for the final push. Demir stood legs shaking and raised his sword one last time. If they were going to die, they'd die fighting. Chapter 100, Salvation's Price. Date, 3480. Second quarter. Iron Confederacy, Safe Hollow. The final goblin wave emerged from the forest like a nightmare given form. Fresh troops eager for blood-sensing victory. They howled and drummed, weapons raised, eyes gleaming with savage joy.
Kill humans. Take slaves. Burn all.
Demir stood in the center of the burning square, Wolf's Vow hanging loose in his grip. Around him perhaps 30 defenders remained standing, all wounded, all exhausted, all broken. Asina lay beside him, barely breathing, her silver fur matted black with blood. Sin knelt in the alley, still cradling Timmy's body, unmoving, unresponsive. His eyes were empty, staring at nothing. Marco leaned on his staff, glasses, shattered robes in tatters.
This is it then.
Thalia nodded weakly.
This is it.
Roderick spat blood.
We make them pay for every step.
Kill, kill, humans die today.
The goblins charged, and Demir felt the frenzy ignite again. The red haze descended over his vision. His exhaustion vanished, replaced by a burning, consuming need to destroy. His armor felt weightless. His sword sang in his hands.
Come on, sons of bitches.
He charged to meet them. Wolf's vow became lightning incarnate, each swing dropping multiple enemies. He didn't block, he destroyed. He didn't parry, he killed. The goblins that reached him died in pieces, unable to comprehend the storm of violence before them. Asina, hearing his battle cry, forced herself to her feet. The giant wolf's eyes blazed with the same frenzy, the same refusal to die. She lunged forward, jaws snapping claws, tearing, moving with impossible speed despite her wounds. Together they became a wall of death. Goblins crashed against them and broke. Wave after wave tried to overwhelm them, but Demir and Asina stood firm, their fury sustaining them beyond mortal limits. Behind them, the remaining defenders rallied. Inspired by the impossible stand, they found strength they didn't know they had. Marco's hands stopped shaking. His final spell erupted in a column of flame that incinerated a dozen goblins. Thalia crawled to her feet, drawing a dagger, and began methodically killing any goblin that broke through. Roderick fought one-handed, each swing, precise, economical, deadly. But it wasn't enough. For every goblin that fell, 3 more took its place. The defenders were being pushed back, compressed into an ever-shrinking circle. Demir's frenzy began to fade. Pain crashed back into him. Bones, broken muscles, torn, blood loss, making his vision swim. His sword arm trembled. Asina stumbled, her legs finally giving out. She collapsed mid-strike, unable to rise.
No.
Demir tried to reach her, but goblins swarmed between them. He was surrounded now, separated from the others. Goblins closed in, sensing weakness.
Kill strong humans. Take head, chief reward.
Quote, this was the end. Demir raised his sword one final time, prepared to sell his life dearly. The sky split with a sound like breaking stone. A shadow passed overhead, massive and impossible. Demir looked up through tear-blurred eyes. A bone dragon. Its skeletal wings stretched wide enough to eclipse the sun. Ribs gleamed like ivory pillars. Eyes burned with eldritch green fire that seemed to pierce reality itself. Atop its spine, a figure in black armor rode twin scythes crossed on their back. The dragon descended like judgment itself. It landed in the center of the goblin horde with earth-shattering force, the impact sending goblins flying like rag dolls. The ground cracked, spider-webbing outward in all directions. The dragon's jaws opened, and a torrent of necrotic energy poured forth, a beam of death that dissolved everything it touched. Goblins screamed as flesh melted from bone, bones crumbled to dust.
Run, run, death beast, dragon.
The rider leaped from the dragon's back, landing with predatory grace. Black armor adorned with death motifs, twin scythes that seemed to drink the light around them. The rider moved through the goblin ranks like a dancer through grass. Each scythe swing killed multiple enemies. Goblins tried to flee, but the rider was faster, cutting them down with brutal efficiency. From the western tree line, another impossibility emerged. A giant grizzly bear. Easily the size of a small house, its fur dark as midnight claws like swords. Atop it rode a massive figure clad in furs and leather, wielding a warhammer that crackled with lightning. The bear charged into the goblin flank, each swipe of its paws sending bodies flying. The rider's warhammer descended like divine retribution, each impact creating shock waves that flattened everything nearby. Behind them, 2 more riders appeared on horseback. The first wielded a greatsword wreathed in flames, each swing leaving trails of fire that consumed goblins in its wake. The second dual-cast magic with both hands. Lightning from the right ice, from the left, the elements weaving together in deadly harmony. The four newcomers carved through the goblin army like gods among mortals. In minutes that felt like seconds, the tide reversed completely. Goblins that had been savoring victory now fled in mindless panic, trampling each other in their desperation to escape. The bone dragon pursued them to the forest edge, its necrotic breath creating a wall of death that none could pass. The grizzly bear and its rider cut off the northern retreat, crushing any who tried to flee that way. The two horse-mounted warriors swept the flanks, ensuring no goblin escaped. Demir stood frozen, unable to comprehend what he was seeing. His sword fell from nerveless fingers. The rider in black armor approached, scythes now sheathed. They removed their helm, revealing a woman's face, scarred, weathered but kind. Her eyes held ancient wisdom and recent pain.
You held well. Longer than I would have at your rank, honestly.
Her voice was soft but carrying weight. Demir tried to speak, but only a croak emerged. The woman smiled faintly.
Rest now. We've got this.
His legs finally gave out. He collapsed, armor clanging against the blood-soaked ground. His vision swam darkness, creeping in at the edges. Through the haze, he saw the grizzly bear rider dismount. A giant of a man with a braided beard, laughing despite the carnage.
That's what I'm talking about. Finally, easy fight.
The flame sword wielder, a lean man with burn scars covering half his face, helped pull wounded defenders to safety.
Get the healers moving. We've got critically injured here.
The dual-casting mage, a woman with silver hair and calculating eyes, began dispelling curses and treating magical wounds with practiced efficiency. Around Demir, the remaining defenders collapsed in relief. Some wept. Others laughed hysterically. Many simply stared in shock. Marco crawled over to Demir, tears streaming down his face.
We made it. By all the gods, we actually made it.
But Demir's eyes found the alley. Sin still knelt there, holding Timmy's body, rocking slowly. The newcomer's arrival hadn't registered. The victory meant nothing. His brother was gone. Thalia stumbled over, supported by Roderick. Both were crying.
It's over. It's finally over.
The bone dragon rider knelt beside Demir, pulling out a potion.
Drink this. You've got internal bleeding, 3 broken ribs, and your left shoulder is shattered.
Demir drank automatically, the healing magic spreading warmth through his battered body. Pain receded slightly enough to think clearly.
Who are you?
The woman smiled.
Name's Naira. Death Knight level 85. These are my companions. Goric Beastmaster, Aleph Pyro Knight, Lysara Elemental Mage.
Players.
Like you. Lex said to look around here.
Demir looked around at the ruins of Safe Hollow. Buildings burned, bodies littered the ground. The walls were rubble. But people were alive. His people.
You saved us. You saved everyone.
Not everyone.
Naira said gently, following his gaze to Sin and Timmy. Demir's chest tightened.
No, not everyone.
Asina whimpered nearby. The giant wolf was being tended by Gorak the Beastmaster, who worked with gentle efficiency despite his size.
This one's tough. She'll live.
Relief flooded Demir. At least Asina would survive. Naira helped him sit up.
You mounted one hell of a defense. A small town of low levels against 5,000 goblins? You should all be dead.
We nearly were. Few more minutes and...
But you weren't. You held. That takes strength.
She looked around at the survivors.
You've built something worth protecting here. That's rare these days.
Aleph the pyromancer approached.
We've cleared the perimeter. No stragglers. The goblin army is scattered. Won't regroup for weeks, if at all.
Lysara joined them.
I've stabilized the critical cases, but you need proper healers. What you have here won't be enough.
Priestess Nea appeared, supported by 2 guards.
We'll manage. We always do.
Naira nodded approvingly.
Tough bunch.
She looked at Demir.
What's your plan now? Lex sent us to protect people who wish to come back to our city.
We will come.
Safe Hollow had burned, but some survived. But the cost was written in blood and ash. Demir found himself drawn to the alley where Sin knelt. He approached slowly, each step heavy.
Sin,
The dark twin didn't respond, didn't move, just kept rocking, holding Timmy's body. Demir knelt beside him, placing a hand on his shoulder.
He saved you. He died protecting you.
I know. He was always the brave one, the good one. And I got him killed.
No, he made his choice. He chose you.
Tears streamed down Sin's face.
What do I do now? He's gone. My brother is gone. This game took everyone.
Demir had no answer. No words could fix this. So he just sat there silent, sharing the grief. Goriak the Beastmaster appeared at the alley entrance, dragging something behind his massive bear. A lengthy, thin goblin different from the others. Its arms were bound, face twisted with hatred.
I caught this one. It was directing the elites from behind the lines. Doesn't look like a chief, but it's something.
You kill humans. You all die. More come. Always more come.
Naira examined it with cold eyes.
A tactician, rare among goblins. What do you want to do with it?
Lock it up. We'll question it. Find out where their main camp is.
You never find. Chief hide good. Chief strong. You weak humans.
We'll see.
As the sun began its descent toward the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and red, the survivors of Safe Hollow began the grim work of counting their dead. 63 defenders killed, nearly half their fighting force, but over 150 civilians saved. The math was brutal, but it was survival. Demir stood at the edge of town, looking out at the forest where thousands of goblin bodies littered the field. Naira joined him.
You did good, kid. Better than good.
Doesn't feel like it.
Yeah, and boozers.
She was quiet for a moment.
But you kept them alive long enough for us to arrive. That's what matters.
Demir nodded slowly.
Thank you for coming.
Thank Lex. He's the one who sent us. Said he had a feeling you'd need help. Guess he was right.
As darkness fell, the survivors of Safe Hollow gathered around campfires, too exhausted to do more than exist. And in a quiet alley, Sin finally stopped rocking. He laid his brother's body down gently, closing Timmy's eyes one last time.
I'll make them pay. Every last one of them. I swear it.
Demir heard the words and said nothing.